We have new details in this weekend's mass shooting in downtown Tucson. 21-year-old David Leroy French has been arrested, accused of shooting 9 people.
As the investigation continues, the business caught in the middle is speaking out. 13 News reporter Peyton May has what they want to say.
Empire Pizza has been a Tucson staple for more than 15 years, but on Sunday morning, it was the place of tragedy. On social media, they shared that 2 victims were sitting on their patio at the time of the shooting and that it broke their hearts to see what downtown had become. Now, they're taking a stronger stance and calling out local politicians for their focus on gun control instead of public safety. Less than 3 days after a tragic shooting left 9 people critically injured, Empire Pizza is speaking out. In an Instagram post shared Monday night, they wrote they were, quote, disheartened to see the focus of this tragedy shift to gun control, claiming that it is zero applicability to what has been happening. Instead, they suggest that safety downtown has decreased over the years and that thefts and drug use have exploded. They claim that's the real story: crimes not being prosecuted, open drug use in public restrooms, and a lack of maintenance on downtown Tucson streets. I asked Tucson Mayor Regina Romero for her response to these claims. She says she gets why they're upset, but says efforts to address drug use and gun violence are different.
But I truly believe that it is easy access to guns that really allows for the situation that happened early Sunday morning at his business.
She says they've had additional officers stationed downtown on the weekend since 2021, which allowed a quick response from TPD after the suspect opened fire Sunday. She says they've also directed funds toward TPD for their safe city deployments, programs to address homelessness, and revitalization efforts like the Downtown Tucson Partnership.
Homicides are 19% down, gun violence is down in our city, and so the work that we're doing with our Safe City initiative, with our gun violence interruption and reduction programs are working.
Conversations that continue during today's study session as they discussed a new pilot program designed to increase enforcement and prosecution of drug-related crimes. It intends to identify repeat offenders of criminal misdemeanors and improve consistency of charges with the Pima County Attorney's Office. However, in their post, Empire Pizza says there is still not enough being done to prosecute criminals. Mayor Romero says she empathizes with their frustration, but assures her commitment to public safety and says they'll continue to focus on this work.
I can understand why a business owner where a shooting happened is frustrated and mad, but for the business to say that we are not doing anything, that is absolutely untrue.
I spoke with Empire Pizza yesterday. They tell me they're not available for an interview, but that everything they want to say is on their social media. Reporting in downtown Tucson, Peyton May, 13.